I had a call with my client yesterday, and they said, Caleb, we love what you're doing, but we want to kind of have a conversation about this retainer because we want to make sure that what we're paying for is actually worth it. And I want to make this video because I want to help somebody navigate this particular situation when they may come across it, or help somebody prevent this situation, because a client should never come to you and say that. If a client comes to you and says that, that means that they're not seeing the value and what it is that you're providing. And it's because you're probably not providing outsized value to whatever it is that you're charging them. And this is one of the things that I've really been having to go through within my business right now is, one, being able to fulfill more effectively, but also two, being able to provide outsized value from what it is that I'm charging, right? And this conversation happened because they feel like what we're providing is not worth what they're paying entirely, right? And granted, I'm blessed enough to have a great relationship with this client and that I have provided value in the past, but it should never get to this point, right? And I know exactly why it's gotten to this point. It's gotten to this point for two reasons, two main reasons. And this is what I really want to touch on in this video. So that way you're able to be equipped from an internal identity perspective and then also from a practical sense as well. So the main reasons as to why this conversation happened and why they want to revisit the conversation about this retainer and, kind of get more clear on where the value is because I'm not giving them a outsized return on value based on what they're paying. So, long story short, just to give you guys a little bit of a background, I have a marketing agency, a digital marketing agency and creative agency. And this particular client, we make content for them on their social media, their YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then we also run ads for them as well for a webinar. Now, I know what the value proposition was when I proposed this retainer. The value proposition was more booked appointments and subsequently more clients. But I haven't been delivering on that consistently, right? We've delivered them appointments, we've delivered them appointments that have converted to clients, but it hasn't been consistent with the monthly retainer, right? Some months will be good, some months won't be as good, and we're still charging them. And this is where I want to break down the internal identity of things because it's so important. If you don't believe that you can provide value to a particular client, it's going to start to show. And that is part of the reason as to why things transpired into this conversation that I'm having with this client, because there was an identity within myself of thinking that I wasn't going to be able to provide the value. And I know this because there would be moments where I would contemplate, like, man, I'm not providing them value. Like, I would feel bad invoicing them sometimes. And it comes down to an identity thing, honestly, right? And this was because I was trying something new with this client, right? Running ads for the very first time. I'd done content before, but us implementing ads into the fold of this was something new. So there was this insecurity of being able to provide a result and being able to get them that outcome of booked appointments, of, getting them new clients through advertising, that I didn't nip it in the bud by, one, recognizing that I can provide the value, and recognizing that by understanding that I have the expertise and the authority to lead and guide them better than they do themselves. But at the same time, it was something new. So I was very dependent upon the outcome being positive. And that clouded my decision making and my judgment when it came to coaching them, when it came to leading them on making certain decisions, when it came to the ads, and also myself executing from a internal standpoint within my team, right? So I ended up falling into a position to where they had the leverage, right? And your client should never have the leverage in the sense that you are the expert. So you should have the authority in leading them into what you know to be best for them. And I slipped out of that role. I slipped out of that role because I didn't believe it within myself, right? And I can think of specific moments where this happened, right? It was with our first webinar campaign that we ran, which that webinar campaign generated them a client that gave them a positive ROI on their ad spend, right? They got a positive return on their ad spend. But after that, I didn't double down on the momentum. I should have utilized that to double down on the momentum and say, hey, based off of these results that we got you off of this first webinar campaign, let's try a different funnel. Because in the back of my head, I already knew based off of this client, they're super busy. They already have a lot of clients. They already have a lot of things going on. Their time is very limited. I am not going to be able to get their time a lot. So I should have restructured how we were doing things. And I should have said, hey, I know that you're super busy. I want to try a different funnel, right? A VSL, video sales letter. If you don't know what VSL stands for, video sales letter funnel, where they go to a landing page and they can just book straight off of your video sales letter, and it's evergreen, right? We don't have to require you to be live every time. There's not a lot of pre-production and all these other things. And now we can start essentially generating appointments on autopilot. But I decided to rerun the same webinar campaign alone, right, without implementing the VSL funnel as well. And that led to a delay of we did the first webinar in February. We're doing this next webinar next week, which is so what, February, the end of February to May. So I guess we'll just say March, April. It's like 2 months, right? Two almost 3 months. And within those 2 to 3 months, no activity is happening, right? Like, yeah, we're still posting on socials, we're still doing this, we're still doing that, but the ultimate value proposition of the retainer is not being met. And this is where I started to slip up, because now when we had this conversation, he's saying, yeah, I want more engagement on the social channels, want to do this, want to do that. And that's fine. All of that is good. But I did not take the lead in recognizing and getting him to also see what the true value of this retainer was, which is booked appointments and subsequently clients from those booked appointments, which is what we discussed in the initial conversation before he signed on as a client, as a retainer. So it's one of those things where I dropped the ball on leading the interaction as the expert, as the authority, and I allowed myself to kind of follow his lead. So now, in that last conversation, he's saying, yeah, I want to see more of this, I want to see more of that, more of this, more of that. And because I already feel like I'm not providing value, I'm just kind of going along with it. So I'm now taking a more submissive role, genuinely, because I'm now following his lead, even though I know in my mind what the actual best path is, right? And it's not to say that I can't collaborate with my clients, or can't take their input or feedback. I think that's very important to do. But at the end of the day, like I said, as you're the authority, so you as the authority and you as the expert have to also let them know this is the best course of action. This is what's going to actually give you the value that you're looking for, because I already know if I just follow what he's saying, what we said, what we talked about in that conversation, and I just follow what he said he wanted to see more of, it's not going to change anything in terms of value. I mean, maybe vanity metrics, like, yeah, he'll get more videos, he might get a few more likes, there might be a little bit more engagement on the page, but is that actually going to lead to the thing that's going to ultimately give him more capital to spend with me? No, it's not. I know what's going to get him that. So now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I, one, have to rewire my own identity and recognizing that I can provide that value. And I think that comes down to, one, it does come down to gaining evidence and being able to provide a result for a client. That does help boost your confidence and your belief within yourself. I'm not going to lie and act like it doesn't. But at the same time, you got to brainwash yourself, bro. You got to literally saturate your mind so much to where you just believe and I'm going to get this client results. And no matter how it's going to happen, I'm going to get them results. And sit in that daily until you truly believe it internally. And I hadn't been doing that. So I fell into a anxious, submissive, scarce, fearful kind of state of mind. And now this is the product of being in that state and not addressing it early and head on within myself. But I'm glad it happened because after that conversation, I realized, I said, okay, whoa, 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 whoa. I got to step back and really, I don't even want to say reclaim the frame because it's not even like that. Like, this client is so cool. Most people would have just been like, yeah, I don't see the value. I'm done. I'm not working with you anymore. I think it's time for us to stop. Because I have such a good relationship with this client and because I have provided that value, he's willing to sit down and have the conversation to say, hey, we haven't been really seeing. That's essentially what he's saying, is we haven't been seeing the value lately and what we've been paying. He phrased it in the way of like, we like what you're doing, but we just want to make sure that what we're paying is worth it. That's essentially saying we don't see the value in what we've been paying lately. So it's one of those things where it's not about reclaiming the frame, but in a sense it is, right? And it's all because I let it slip. So now I was like, okay, wait, well, I got to take back the leadership role of being the expert and being the authority in this lane because that's what he hired me for in the first place. And now I'm working on a deck so that way when I do have this conversation with him again and we revisit this thing, I'm like, look, this is where things broke down. This is where the true value of this retainer is, right? I have to get him to see and recognize where the actual value of the retainer is, because based off of what he told me he wants to see more of, we can add that into what we're doing, and that can be a part of the delivery and the fulfillment, but that's not where the true value lies. So even if I just follow what he's saying at this point, it's like, okay, now I've just become an employee to my client and I'm not giving them the best value that I know I can because they're not the expert. I'm the expert, right? So I'm glad it happened because now it's allowed me to recognize, which is very important, and it's also allowed me to be more aware of my own identity and the chips in my armor, the chinks in my armor that I was aware of, but I didn't take the time to address head on. And it led to this, right? So now me knowing this, I'm like, okay, I can easily get this thing back on track, right? So I'm making a deck where I'm going to showcase where things kind of broke down, where the true value of this relationship and this retainer is, and what the next steps are going to be and how we're going to execute on that. And then we're going to execute on that and we're going to be effective and we're going to provide that value. So I wanted to make this video because as an early entrepreneur, as an early entrepreneur, when you're starting out, you may encounter something like this, right? You may encounter a client that's like, they might just leave based off of something like this. Thankfully, like I said, I'm blessed enough to have had a great relationship with this client up to this point. So they're willing to work with me, right? And kind of figure this thing out before they're just like, yeah, no. Which is why it's super, super important that you know how to create sticky relationships, because that will help you a lot, right? Relationship building sticky relationships, being able to provide a lot of value up front will help you when things like this happen. Because as much as I'd like to say things like this, you can prevent things like this from happening, it's probably going to be something that's going to happen regardless, right? It's probably going to be something that you're going to have to go through eventually anyway. And I'm just glad that it's happening now, because it's giving me the skill set, it's giving me the awareness, it's giving me the real world experience to know how to navigate these things. So when I get more clients and when we scale, we've already seen that, done that, so we can identify it, pinpoint it before it starts to get out of hand, right? Because for me, my biggest thing when it comes to my business has always been retention. I always want to have long retention, right? I want a very, very, very good lifetime value out of my clients, right? I would like them to essentially work with us forever if possible. So I say all of that to say, I wanted to make this video to just walk through a real world example of what is going on in my business right now and what needs to happen not only internally but also practically in order to move forward, navigate past it, and not have it be something that's going to significantly set you back or something that's going to hit you in the gut and you're like, oh, I don't know how to deal with this, right? Or even have it hit you in the identity or the ego, right? Where now you're basing your self-worth off of this particular situation because trust and believe things like this are going to happen in business. I'm pretty sure this is going to be light work to things that are going to happen in the future for me. So I'm just grateful that I was able to navigate through this properly. And now I know what to do. You know, I have confidence in clarity and where I need to go, how I need to move, what I need to do. And I know that there's going to be a positive outcome from it. So I wanted to make this video as a real world example to show you guys, like, I don't have it all figured out. I'm still figuring things out. But just because I'm still figuring things out doesn't mean that it should stop me from trying, from pushing forward, from doing things that are going to get me to where I want to get to. And hopefully this video can provide some clarity or some insight for somebody who is navigating a similar situation. Maybe you've lost clients like this, right? Or maybe you haven't yet, and maybe you're still just starting your business, but something like this is on the horizon down the line, because entrepreneurship is not all roses and sunshine. Keeping it a whole stack, this past really like 2-3 weeks, things have been breaking in my business left and fucking right. Left and right. So I just want to be able to get on here, be honest, be candid, and show you guys, like, look, this is what the stage of early entrepreneurship looks like, right? I've seen some success, and through that success, I've been exposed to how much I don't know and how lost I actually am and how much I still need to improve and get better. But that's a part of the game. That's a part of the journey, and that's what makes it fun, the process. So hopefully this helps somebody, and this can help you navigate a similar situation, or at least be prepared for a situation like this when it arises, so you can either nip it in the bud before it gets to this point, or you know how to navigate it if it does get to this point. So with that being said, leave some comments down below if there's something like this similar that you're navigating. Maybe you've gotten through it, right? Maybe you're well past the stage of early entrepreneurship and you've dealt with these things before, and you can give me some insight, some clarity. I would love that if you could put that in the comments as well. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. For now, take care.